2 hours. That's all you have. 2 hours before the world changes, before everything you thought was certain becomes uncertain again. The message flashes across every screen, bold, urgent, unstoppable. Elon Musk has announced something big. You have 2 hours left. People pause. Some rush to their phones. Others roll their eyes. But a few, the ones who sense something deeper, stop and breathe. They don't see a countdown, they see a mirror. 2 hours. It's not just about Musk or Mars or money. It's about you. It's about the clock that has always been ticking, quietly, behind the noise of everyday life, because the truth is, every one of us has a 2 hours left moment. It might not appear on a screen, and it might not come with a billionaire's warning. But it's there, in the silent reminder that time doesn't wait, dreams don't chase themselves, and change doesn't ask for your permission before it arrives. Imagine for a moment that Elon Musk really did have something world-altering to reveal, not a new rocket, not an AI, but a truth about human potential. Imagine he stood before the world and said, "You have 2 hours left to live the life you were meant to live." What would you do? Would you scroll? Would you complain? Would you compare yourself to others? Or would you finally stand up, breathe deeply, and take that one step you've been postponing for years? The idea of 2 hours left isn't about fear, it's about awakening. It's about realizing that life doesn't happen someday, it happens now. Musk's entire philosophy, whether in rockets or cars or Neuralink chips, has always carried one quiet message beneath the noise: act before you're ready. The man who bet everything on a reusable rocket wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing time. He was trying to bend it, to stretch it, to remind humanity that tomorrow only exists for those who dare to build it today. And that's where your story begins. When you think of Elon Musk, you might picture a genius, a disruptor, or even a controversial dreamer. But behind all the headlines and the noise is a man who never stopped acting as if the clock was running out. SpaceX was born when rockets kept failing. Tesla was ridiculed when it was broke. People told him it couldn't be done, and yet, he kept going, not because he had guarantees, but because he had urgency. That same urgency lives inside every human being. Most people just forget it's there. You see, life isn't measured by the hours we live, but by the moments we choose to create something meaningful. And yet, we treat our dreams as if they'll wait patiently for us to be ready. We say we'll start tomorrow, next week, or next year, when the timing's perfect, when fear is gone, when we feel prepared. But time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't pause for perfection. It just keeps moving. So when you see a headline like "only 2 hours left," don't think about panic, think about possibility. 2 hours is enough to change the entire direction of your life. Think about it. In 2 hours, a rocket can leave the Earth's atmosphere. In 2 hours, a book can be written that changes someone's life. In 2 hours, a decision can be made that breaks years of stagnation. The problem isn't that we don't have enough time. It's that we forget the power of the time we already have. When Musk builds rockets, he doesn't just build machines, he builds metaphors. Every launch is a statement that says, you can break free from gravity. Not just physical gravity, but emotional gravity. Mental gravity, societal gravity. The weight that keeps you grounded in fear, self-doubt, and comfort, that's what the 2 hours symbolizes. It's not a deadline, it's a lifeline. It's a reminder that everything you want to become is already waiting, but the window is open now. Most people live their lives like they have forever. They postpone their dreams like it's safe to wait. They talk about what they'll do someday. But someday isn't a date on the calendar. Someday is a myth that steals your life piece by piece. The world changes not when people have more time, but when people decide that the time they have is enough. Elon Musk didn't wake up one morning with a perfect plan. He woke up with a decision, to try. To risk failure. To build something bigger than himself. That's all it ever takes, one decision backed by urgency. So, when you think of those words, only 2 hours left, ask yourself, what's been waiting inside you for too long? What dream, what purpose, what invention, what version of you has been buried beneath excuses and fears? Maybe you've been telling yourself you'll start writing that book when inspiration strikes. Maybe you've been saying you'll learn that skill when you have more time. Maybe you've been holding back from taking a leap because you're scared of what might go wrong. But here's the truth, time won't give you permission. It will only give you opportunities, disguised as now. The announcement isn't from Elon Musk. It's from life itself. It's from the silent pulse in your chest that beats every second, whispering, you're still here. You still have time. But not forever. The next 2 hours, metaphorically or literally, could be the most important of your life if you choose them to be. You could decide that this is when you start changing things, when you stop overthinking and start creating, when you stop doubting and start daring. Musk once said, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. That's the essence of urgency. The odds don't matter when purpose takes over. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is always disguised as right now. Maybe the announcement you're waiting for isn't a world-changing message from a billionaire. Maybe it's your own heart announcing that it's time to move. Because at the end of the day, there's only one countdown that truly matters. The one between who you are and who you could become, and the clock starts now. There's something about a countdown that awakens the human spirit. You can feel it, the heartbeat quickens, the mind sharpens, and suddenly, everything that used to feel impossible becomes urgent, alive, necessary. That's why we act differently when time is running out. When there's a deadline, when the flight is leaving, when the last chance slips away, that's when we find strength we didn't know we had. It's not that we become more capable, it's that we finally focus. Imagine living your entire life with that kind of focus. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that the next 2 hours could define you. That's the kind of mindset Elon Musk lives with, not because he loves chaos, but because he understands one simple truth: urgency creates clarity. When the clock is ticking, all the noise fades. The excuses dissolve. What matters becomes obvious. It's not about rushing, it's about awakening. Musk's greatest innovations were never born from comfort. They were born from crisis, from the sharp edge of time running out. When SpaceX faced bankruptcy, when Tesla teetered on collapse, when everything seemed ready to fall apart, he didn't slow down. He accelerated. He once said, "If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure." That's not just business advice, it's life advice. Because every meaningful change in history began with someone who refused to wait until it was safe. Urgency is not panic, it's power. It's the realization that the clock won't stop, so neither should you. Think about the people who changed the world: scientists, artists, dreamers, rebels. They all had something in common: a sense that time was slipping through their fingers. And if they didn't act now, the moment would be lost forever. That's what the 2 hours left message is about. It's not about fear. It's about the spark that wakes you up from sleepwalking through your own potential. In every one of us, there's a quiet genius that waits for the right moment to show itself. But life rarely hands us the right moment. More often, it gives us chaos, uncertainty, and fear, the very ingredients we try to avoid. Yet those are the same conditions that gave birth to every great breakthrough. When you have no choice but to move forward, you discover who you are. That's why pressure doesn't destroy true purpose, it reveals it. Elon Musk has faced countless failures, but each one became a catalyst for growth. The rockets that exploded weren't just lessons in engineering, they were lessons in persistence. Every time something went wrong, he didn't quit. He recalibrated. Because when you have 2 hours left, metaphorically or literally, you stop asking, "What if it doesn't work?" and start asking, "What can I do right now?" And that shift, from doubt to action, is where transformation begins. The truth is, most of us aren't waiting for opportunity, we're waiting for permission. We think we need more knowledge, more confidence, more resources. But in reality, we need only one thing: urgency. You already know what to do. You already know what step you've been avoiding. You already know what dream keeps whispering to you in the quiet hours of the night. But as long as you think you have time, you'll keep delaying. Urgency doesn't come from external deadlines, it comes from internal awakening. It's the moment you look at your reflection and realize that every second you spend doubting is a second stolen from your future. Elon Musk didn't have a rulebook when he started building rockets. He wasn't the most qualified or the most experienced. But he was the most urgent. He believed the future couldn't wait. And that belief pulled him through storms that would have broken anyone else. So ask yourself, what if you stopped waiting for motivation and started living as if the countdown had already begun? What if you woke up tomorrow and decided that the next 2 hours would define your destiny? Would you still hesitate? Would you still scroll through endless distractions? Or would you finally start building your dream with the same fire that built rockets? Time has a strange way of testing our priorities. When we think we have plenty, we waste it. But when it starts to disappear, we value every breath, every decision, every step. That's why near-death experiences change people. That's why deadlines make creators out of procrastinators. Because when time becomes real, life becomes real. The message, only 2 hours left, isn't a warning. It's an invitation. An invitation to treat your existence as sacred. To remember that you're not promised endless tomorrows. You don't need to be Elon Musk to change the world. You don't even need to start a company. You just need to start something that matters to you. Because purpose doesn't come from wealth or fame. It comes from movement. When you act, you become alive. Here's the truth most people forget: the future doesn't happen later, it happens now. Every dream, every invention, every revolution begins with someone deciding to use their 2 hours differently. So maybe today, your big announcement isn't coming from the sky, or from Musk, or from the world. Maybe it's coming from within you. The voice that's been waiting to be heard. It's saying, the clock is ticking. You've waited long enough. You were born to build, to create, to rise. Not tomorrow. Now. And maybe, just maybe, that's the message that really will change everything. When the clock begins to tick louder, courage wakes up. It doesn't arrive in a grand, cinematic moment. It rises quietly, like a spark catching fire in a dark room. You feel it first as discomfort, a restlessness that whispers, you can't stay where you are. That's what happens when time becomes real. The illusion of someday fades, and what's left is now, raw, uncertain, alive. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision that something else matters more. Elon Musk didn't build rockets because he wasn't afraid of failure. He built them because he believed that staying still was a bigger failure. When SpaceX rockets exploded, when critics laughed, when Tesla nearly ran out of money, he stood in the ashes of each setback and said, "We try again." That's not arrogance. That's courage born from urgency, because when you believe you're running out of time, fear loses its power. Think about your own life. How many times have you wanted to take a leap, start that business, confess your love, change your path, but waited, telling yourself the time wasn't right? Now imagine you only had 2 hours left. Suddenly, clarity floods in. You know exactly what matters. The hesitation disappears. You'd call that person, write that page, chase that dream. You'd move, so why wait for a countdown to remind you what's important? The truth is, the courage you're waiting for doesn't come before action, it comes because of action. People often imagine courage as a trait you're born with. It isn't. It's a muscle built through motion, through saying yes when every voice in your head says no. that's how innovators live. That's how anyone who's ever made a difference has lived, not with certainty, but with conviction, and that conviction comes from knowing that time is limited. Musk once described running his companies as staring into the abyss and eating glass. That's what courage feels like, painful, uncertain, but strangely alive. You move forward not because it's easy, but because stopping would kill something inside you. The 2 hours left idea strips life down to its essence. It forces you to see what truly matters, not money, not fame, but meaning. What would you build if fear didn't exist? What would you create if you knew your time was almost gone? What truth would you speak if you realized silence had an expiration date? That's the question courage asks, and the moment you begin to answer, you change the trajectory of your life, because the people who act with urgency don't wait for permission. They move while others are still doubting. They try while others are still talking. They fail faster, learn faster, and rise higher, not because they're special, but because they're awake. They've stopped living like they have forever. You can too. Courage isn't loud. It's not about shouting your dreams to the world. Sometimes, it's the quiet decision to try again after failing 100 times. Sometimes, it's writing a single sentence when you want to give up. Sometimes, it's showing up to your life, even when it's messy, uncertain, and hard. That's the kind of courage Elon Musk embodies, not the glossy magazine cover kind, but the kind that bleeds and rebuilds, the kind that gets mocked, misunderstood, and still keeps going. The courage to stand alone when nobody believes, the courage to look foolish for a while in the name of a future no one else can see. The courage to move when the world says stop, and all of that is born from a deep, burning understanding. Time is running out. When the countdown begins, everything superficial fades. Ego, comparison, and perfection lose their weight. What remains is truth. That's why facing mortality changes people, because it reminds us that nothing lasts forever except what we create. The best art, the boldest inventions, the greatest ideas, all of them are humanity's rebellion against time. Elon Musk's rockets aren't just machines, they're symbols. Every launch says, "We refuse to stay grounded." And you don't need to build rockets to live by that message. You just need to stop waiting for the right moment to lift off, because courage isn't found in moments of comfort. It's born in pressure, in risk, in time running out. It's born when you look at your fear and realize that it's not an obstacle, it's a compass pointing directly toward what matters most. There's a hidden beauty in urgency. It simplifies life. It reveals the essence of who you are. When you know the clock is ticking, you stop pretending. You stop living for approval. You stop chasing things that don't fill your soul, you start creating. You start giving. You start becoming. And maybe that's what Elon Musk's big announcement really means in this metaphorical sense. Not a product launch, but a call to consciousness. A reminder that your time is the most precious resource in the universe, and how you use it defines your legacy. If you had 2 hours left, would you spend them doubting yourself, or would you finally start? That's courage. Not a feeling, but a choice. And once you make that choice, everything changes. The fear doesn't vanish, but it shrinks. The uncertainty doesn't disappear, but it loses control over you. You become unstoppable not because you're fearless, but because you've decided that fear will not decide for you. Every second counts. Every moment is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. And somewhere deep inside, your spirit already knows this. It's waiting for you to catch up, so maybe, when the world says, only 2 hours left, you should smile. Because that's not an ending, that's an awakening. It's a chance to ask yourself, with honesty and urgency, if I only had 2 hours left, what would I do differently? Then go do it. Not in 2 hours. Not tomorrow, now.